Today I'm showing you how to crochet this striped beanie. You will need your yarn, hook, and a yarn needle for the main body of the hat. With these materials, you can also make a pom-pom. My pom-pom is a clip-on. You do need a bit extra material for this. I will explain that near the end of the video. So this is the yarn I'm using. You don't have to use the same yarn, but just as a reference, my yarn calls for a 4mm crochet hook, but I'm gonna size up to 5mm. But of course, if you want to use the size your yarn calls for, in my case a 4mm is also okay. So I'm going to begin with a slip knot and insert my hook. And then I'm going to make a chain. For those who's never crocheted before, you just yarn over and pull it through the loop on your hook. I made a chain of 40. This is the height of the beanie. So it's from here to here, including the brim. So my one measures about 11 inches, but it can stretch to 14 inches. If you want your beanie to be longer, then you can just chain more. You can chain as many chains as you want because it doesn't affect anything else. It only affects the height of the beanie. So after that, I'm going to chain one to turn. And then in the second chain from the hook, 1, 2, I'm going to turn my chain and find its back loop. That is the second back loop. I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook in that back loop and pull up one loop. Now I've got 3 loops on my hook. I'm just going to yarn over and pull it through all of it. I strongly suggest you place a stitch marker here to mark this first stitch. So what we did is called a half double crochet. I'm just going to work 1 half double crochet in the back loop of each chain here. So that means I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook in the next back loop, pull it up, and then yarn over, pull it through all of it. Yarn over, pull up a loop in the next back loop, and yarn over, pull through 3. So I continued working like this, putting 1 half double crochet in the back loop of each chain all the way to the end of the row. That's the last stitch. And that was row 1. From the marked stitch to the very last stitch, I should have 40 stitches, the same as my beginning chain number. If you're a beginner, please make sure you double check your stitch number after you finish each row, so if you make a mistake, you can find it as early as possible. To begin the next row, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. In the very first stitch, which is this one, that's the chain 1, that's the first stitch. In the back loop, I'm going to make a half double crochet. So don't forget to yarn over. Insert your hook in the back loop only of that stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. And I'm also going to mark this first stitch. Again, if you're a beginner, please make sure you do this. And then from the next stitch, back loop, I'm going to work 1 half double crochet in each stitch, and I'll see you at the end of the row. And this is why we marked the first stitch. When I work my way back, this marked stitch should be the last stitch I work into. However, to achieve this striped color pattern, we need to change color every 2 rows. So this is the end of my second row. I need to change color. And the color change happens at the last stitch here. So I'm going to work a half double crochet in this stitch, but at the same time, I'm going to change color. So I'm going to yarn over, insert in the stitch, and pull up a loop. And now I have 3 loops on the hook. And then you just grab your second color. I'm going to call this color A and this color B. So just use B to finish this stitch by pulling it through the 3 loops on your hook. And then I'm going to tie these 2 ends together once. Once is enough. So now that the color change is complete, I can start my next row by chaining 1 and turning my work. So from here, we're just going to repeat row 2, which is chain 1 at the beginning of the row and work 1 half double crochet in the back loop of each stitch. When I get to the end of this row, I'm going to make sure my last stitch is worked in this marked stitch. And then I'm going to chain 1 and turn from the very first stitch, start to work 1 half double crochet in each stitch, just like row 2 again. So I'm going to do 2 rows in color B and meet you back here. By the way, once you have worked in the stitch, you can take that stitch marker off. So anyway, after 2 rows of color B, I'm changing color again in this very last stitch. So when I have 3 loops on my hook, I'm going to just grab color A directly and use it to finish this stitch. You can pull this a bit tighter, it doesn't matter because this is the end that's going to be the top, so it's going to be pushed all together anyway, so it can be a bit tight. So once you've changed color, you can do 2 rows of half double crochets again, just like we've been doing. So with color A, I'm going to work 1 row and a second row back to this end, and then I can just use this thread to change color directly. So basically, the color change always happens on one end. If at any point you notice your piece is getting narrower, it's probably because you're missing this marked stitch. So when you work your rows, you didn't work your last stitch in this stitch. So every time you work 1 more row, you're decreasing 1 stitch, and you won't be able to fix it without ripping your work and restarting from where you accidentally made that decrease. So please make sure you remember to mark your first stitch and also double check your stitch number after you finish each row. So from here, you can just continue working your panel, switching color every 2 half double crochet rows until your panel is long enough to wrap around your head. So I continued working the rows, making sure they can stretch to my head circumference, which is 21 inches. Also made sure I ended with the opposite color to my beginning color. The 2 sides look a bit different. On one side, this bump is between 2 rows of the same color. On the other side, the bump is between 2 colors. You can pick either side as your right side. I'm going to pick this one. And the edge where we changed color will be the top of the hat, and the other edge will be the brim. So I'm going to fold the rectangle in half with the wrong side facing and make the short ends meet. I'm going to place a stitch marker here in the loop of color A. I'm going to use this color to close off the top of the hat later, but before that, I need to join the edges, and for that, I'm going to use color B. So find your first stitch right here. That's the chain 1 on the side, that's the first stitch. Insert in both loops. And for the other side, for this one, I'm only going to insert in the back loop. And then pull yarn through. Chain 1 for this one. And from the next stitch, I'm going to make slip stitches. So insert in both loops and only in the back loop of the next stitch on the other side. Pull yarn through and make a slip stitch. And then I'm just going to repeat this. The reason why I only insert in the back loop is because it makes the seam look less obvious from the right side. So you just continue doing this to the end of the row. Chain 1 and cut this yarn. Flip your work inside out like this, so you have the right side facing you. And as you can see, this is the front loop that we left out. Especially when you do it in a dark color, you can't really see the seam. So now we're going to use this to sew up the top. Leave about 1 meter, cut your yarn and pull it through. So it's tied like this and doesn't pull the other side of the thread. To sew up the top, I'm just going to go through the spaces along the edge in and out. You don't need to worry too much about which spaces to go through, just make sure you don't leave big gaps between them. So I'm back to the beginning. Even after that, you would still have a hole here. What I'm going to do next is just go across like this, making sure it covers all ends. So it's kind of like I'm drawing a star here. I'm doing this from the right side so I can make sure it looks nice on the outside. If you want to add a pom-pom, I've got these ones from, I think, Amazon. It comes with buttons like this. So I'm just going to sew this onto the top and then I can clip this pom-pom on. And that way I can even change colors every now and then. But I think for now, this one looks the best. If you don't have a pom-pom like this, you can also use your yarns. I'll link some videos on that in the description. To sew this on, I need a thinner needle and thread. I thought I was recording, but I wasn't. But anyway, what I just did was I got this thread. It was still attached. I got it to the wrong side and then I just went through any thread here a few times and then I tied it with the other color, just a few knots like that, and just cut it. So now that I fastened off the yarn, I'm gonna use this to sew it on. I don't do this a lot, so I'm just gonna wing it. So after that, I got both ends of the thread to the wrong side and tied them up. Then I wove in the ends and that's it. I just need to clip this on and I've got myself a beanie.